You know what's interesting? When you walk away, it's not always the silence that gets to him right away. It's the echo of the last thing you said. It's the moment that replays in his mind over and over again when he least expects it. And here's the thing, men don't always process those moments right away. Sometimes they try to distract themselves, cover the discomfort, or act like they've already moved on. But that final conversation, that moment before the silence began, it plants itself in his mind, quietly, almost like a whisper, and it doesn't leave. He thinks about the way your voice cracked just a little before you said goodbye. He remembers the pause you took before hitting send on that last message. He replays it, not just once, but several times, especially late at night or during the quiet moments when he's not performing for the world. You might think he's forgotten it. You might believe he brushed it off. But there are parts of that moment he can't stop revisiting. Not because he's sentimental, but because something about it feels unfinished. He's not going to tell his friends this. He's not going to bring it up. He'll pretend it didn't matter, but the truth is, he's looking for closure that never came. And when you don't text again, when you don't chase or explain or try to fix things, it creates a vacuum he wasn't prepared for. That's when the questions begin. Was she really done? Did she mean that? Should I have said something else? And before he realizes it, he's having a conversation with himself that he used to have with you. Men often confuse silence with indifference until they're sitting in the middle of it. And suddenly that silence is louder than any argument, any message, any final word. And it's in that silence that he starts to reflect. Not on just what happened, but on what he could have done differently, what he could have said better, whether he should have stopped you from walking away, whether he pushed too far, stayed too distant, acted too cold. He might look like he's going about his life just fine. He might even be texting other people, filling the void, but it doesn't mean you're not lingering somewhere in his mind. Because when someone mattered, when something meant something, it doesn't just disappear because the texts stop. It stays, it loops, and it catches him off guard in the smallest of ways. A song, a scent, a memory. The place where you used to meet. A photo that pops up without warning. And what does he do when those memories show up? He tries to make sense of them. He wonders if you're thinking about him too. If maybe, just maybe, you're hesitating to text for the same reason he is. Fear, ego, uncertainty. So now both of you are silent. Both of you are wondering, but neither of you is moving. The irony is, the more he replays that final interaction, the more he starts to shift emotionally. What started as indifference turns into curiosity. What started as confidence becomes doubt. He starts to wonder if maybe he underestimated the weight of your absence. And even though he's not reaching out, he's hoping that you'll break the silence, that you'll say something, that you'll give him a reason to revisit it all in real time, not just in his memory. But what he doesn't realize is, your silence is the message. Your stillness is saying everything he needs to hear. You don't need to text. You don't need to chase. Because you already said what needed to be said. And now he's left sitting with the version of you that decided to walk away. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally realized that your peace was worth more than a conversation that went in circles. So, while he replays that last moment again and again, hoping for a different ending or at least another chapter, you're over here writing a whole new story. Quietly, powerfully, unapologetically, and that's exactly what he never expected. He's not going to admit it. He's not going to say, I miss her, or I wonder if she'll reach out. That's not how he operates. Instead, he chooses subtlety. He plays it cool. He acts like your absence hasn't fazed him. But here's what's really happening behind that performance. He's checking, quietly, carefully, almost like he doesn't want to get caught caring. He notices when you're online. He sees your profile picture change. He picks up on your stories, your posts, the songs you're sharing. Maybe he doesn't double tap. Maybe he doesn't view them every time, but he sees. He scrolls through your thread just to see if anything new pops up. He doesn't reach out, but he lingers. The same guy who once thought you'd always be available is now hoping for a sign that you still might be. And the irony is, he does all of this while acting like none of it matters. If someone were to ask him, he'd shrug it off. Nah, I haven't really thought about it, but it's a lie, because when someone genuinely didn't matter, you don't check. You don't keep tabs. You don't need to stay connected to something that's supposedly in the past. And yet, there he is, quietly monitoring your world, hoping for something to remind him he's still in it. That's what silence does. It creates uncertainty, and that uncertainty becomes a trigger. He starts questioning what you're thinking, what you're feeling, whether you've already moved on. And the longer you stay silent, the more his curiosity grows, because it's not just about missing a message. It's about missing the attention, the comfort, the validation. You were a part of his routine. You were the one who reached out first, who kept things going, who showed you cared. And now that you're not doing that, he feels the gap even if he won't say it out loud. It's in the way he opens your chat just to reread old messages. It's in how he scrolls up far enough to remember what it felt like when you were still there, still warm, still reaching for him. And it hits differently now, because now the messages have stopped. The late night texts, the casual "how was your day?" The way you used to check in, that's all gone. And no one is replacing that, not really. He might talk to others. He might even entertain distractions. But they don't feel the same. They don't hold the same weight. You see, when someone checks without responding, that's not apathy. That's restraint, that's ego getting in the way. He wants to know what's going on with you, but he doesn't want to be the one to break the silence. He's hoping you'll do it, because if you do, then he doesn't have to confront the reality that he let something valuable slip through his fingers. If you text first, he gets to believe that you still care more, that he still has the upper hand, that you haven't moved on, at least not fully. But every day you stay silent, something shifts inside him, slowly, subtly, but it shifts. What once felt like control starts to feel like loss. What once seemed like confidence starts to crumble into doubt. And that's where the internal battle begins. Because deep down, he doesn't just want to know if you're thinking about him. He wants to know if he still matters. It's not about the message anymore. It's about what the silence represents. It's about what your absence has stirred inside of him. And that's the part he didn't expect, because he thought he could play it cool and walk away unaffected. But now, it's the quiet that's doing the talking. It's your stillness that's speaking the loudest, and he's listening more closely than he ever did when you were actually there. So if you're wondering whether he's noticed, whether he cares, whether your silence has reached him, the answer is yes. Not in grand gestures, not in obvious ways, but in the quiet checking, the secret scrolling, the delayed hesitation to delete your chat. He's watching, waiting, hoping, not for just any message, but for a sign that he didn't lose you for good. And that's exactly why your silence is the most powerful message you could ever send. He wants the reassurance without the risk. That's what this really comes down to. He doesn't want to be the one to send the first message, because that would mean opening himself up. It would mean showing his hand, admitting that he still thinks about you, that he hasn't completely let go. And to do that, he'd have to be vulnerable. But here's the twist: he still wants you to text. He still wants to feel like you care. He still wants to know he's on your mind. He just doesn't want to risk being the one who gets rejected. So what does he do? He waits quietly. He plays it off like he's fine, like he's moved on, but beneath that surface is someone who still wants to feel needed. He hopes that you'll be the one to break the silence, that you'll reach out and confirm he hasn't completely disappeared from your world. Because if you do, it means he still matters. It means he hasn't lost you. And most of all, it means he doesn't have to do the hard part, being emotionally exposed. This is the kind of moment where ego starts to lead the way. It's not that he doesn't care. It's not that he's heartless or indifferent. It's that he wants to care safely. He wants the comfort of knowing you still want him, without having to confront the possibility that maybe you don't. So he stays still. He doesn't reach out, but he pays attention. He watches. He waits for a sign that gives him permission to care without consequence. And this is the game so many people get trapped in, the game of waiting for the other person to make the first move. But what he doesn't realize is that every moment he waits, he's actually pushing you further away, because you feel the gap growing. You feel the weight of always being the one to initiate, to care out loud, to do the emotional lifting. And now that you've stopped, he doesn't know what to do with the silence. That silence, though, it's where his craving starts to build. It's where the absence becomes real, and suddenly your presence, which he once may have taken for granted, feels like something he wants again. But instead of reaching out, he waits for you to give him that little piece of validation, because in his mind, if you text first, it means he still holds space in your heart. It means he didn't mess things up beyond repair. It means he's still safe. There's comfort in being wanted, and he wants that comfort. He misses the way you made him feel about himself, the way you checked in, the way you reminded him without even trying that he was seen and valued. And now that it's gone, he doesn't know how to create that for himself. So he hopes you'll return to doing it for him, but you're not doing that anymore. Not because you don't care, but because you finally recognized your worth isn't measured by how many times you reach out to someone who doesn't meet you halfway. And the more you hold that silence, the more he feels it. Because without your words, without your affection, he's left facing something he's been trying to avoid, his own need for connection and the fear that he may have lost it. He doesn't want to be vulnerable because vulnerability feels like weakness. But he doesn't see that it's actually the opposite. It takes strength to show up with an open heart. It takes strength to be the one who says, "I miss you," or "I still care." And until he's ready to own that, he's going to keep hoping you'll carry that weight for him, that you'll break the silence so he doesn't have to. But here's the truth: every time you choose not to, every time you stay quiet, you're reminding him that validation isn't something he can just expect without effort. You're reminding him that you're not here to stroke an ego that's unwilling to meet you with real emotion. And that's powerful. That's when he realizes that craving your text is easy, but earning your energy. That takes more than just hope. And that's the moment he realizes silence isn't rejection. It's a boundary he never expected you to finally hold. There's something about absence that speaks louder than presence ever could. When you were always there, available, responsive, caring, he never had to think about what life without you looked like. He never had to sit in the stillness of missing you. He never had to feel the weight of not knowing what was on your mind or whether you were still thinking about him. You were consistent. You reached out. You checked in. You gave pieces of yourself even when you weren't getting the same energy back. And maybe at the time he thought it would always be that way. But now your silence is doing something your words never could. It's creating space. And in that space, he's not hearing nothing. He's hearing everything. Every moment you don't text. Every hour you don't appear in his notifications. Every day you don't fold back into the pattern of chasing or checking in. It speaks. It speaks of your growth, your strength, your decision to no longer invest in something that wasn't investing in you. And even if he doesn't want to admit it, he feels it. What's funny is that he probably thought you'd come back. Maybe not right away, but eventually. That's often the assumption. If you cared enough once, you'll care enough again. If you loved deeply before, you'll eventually reach for him out of habit. But what he underestimated was your ability to adapt. He didn't expect you to turn that love inward. He didn't expect you to stop trying. He didn't think the silence would last long enough for him to notice what it really meant. But now he does. Now he notices the emptiness in his phone, the conversations that don't happen, the way your presence used to be a steady hum in the background of his life, and now it's just gone. And it's in that void that the regret begins to settle, because it's not just about the messages, it's about what they represented. They were your way of saying, I'm here, I care, I'm showing up. And now, without them, he's left wondering if he mistook consistency for permanence. When someone gets used to your energy, they forget it's a choice. They forget you gave that part of yourself willingly. And when you finally stop, when you reclaim it, that absence hits like a wave, a quiet, unshakable wave of realization. He might not say it out loud, but he's beginning to understand what it cost you to walk away, what it took for you to go silent. And that realization, that you no longer feel the need to explain, to reach out, to remind him of your worth, that's what lingers. Because the moment you stopped showing up is the moment he had to face the truth. You're not waiting anymore. You're not hoping he gets it. You're not leaving the door halfway open, just in case. And that's what makes the silence so powerful. It's not passive. It's not an accident. It's a decision, one that says, I'm not begging to be seen anymore. And here's the part that cuts deeper than anything you could have texted. Your silence makes him question himself. It makes him wonder if he really mattered the way he assumed he did. It forces him to sit in the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as important as he believed. Not because you didn't care, but because he didn't value it when it was being offered freely. He's going to replay it. All of it, not just the last conversation, but the little moments. The times you forgave without a second thought. The times you stayed when you should have walked. The love you gave without needing anything back. And that's when the regret gets real. Because losing you wasn't a single moment. It was a series of chances not taken, words not said, effort not shown. And now it's the silence that reflects all of that back at him like a mirror. He thought he had time. He thought he could figure it out later, but silence doesn't wait, it doesn't beg, it just grows, and with every day that passes, it speaks louder. It reminds him that you're not a message waiting to be read. You're a chapter that's already been closed. And nothing shakes a man more than realizing he only started listening after you stopped speaking.